The clock on the wall ticked past midnight. The halls of St. Mary's Hospital stretched out in calm silence, broken only by the faint beeps of monitors and the soft rhythm of distant footsteps. Emma Clark walked slowly, her sneakers squeaking lightly on the polished floor. Her shift had begun 12 hours ago, yet she moved with quiet focus, her eyes steady even as her shoulders drooped with exhaustion. She stopped by room 207, checked the chart, and smiled faintly. Little Lily Hayes was sleeping soundly. The girl's chest rose and fell beneath the soft blanket, a faint smile on her lips. Emma felt her heart warm. Lily had been in the pediatric ward for weeks, recovering from a surgery that had scared everyone. But tonight, the machines were calm, the numbers steady. Emma pulled the blanket a little higher over the girl's small shoulders, careful not to wake her. "Sleep well, sweetheart," she whispered. Emma stepped back and glanced at the chair near the window. It was empty tonight. Usually, Lily's father sat there, silent, his tall figure always dressed neatly, even in the middle of the night. Daniel Hayes, the man everyone whispered about. The hospital staff knew he was a CEO, the kind who made headlines for building something big. But to Emma, he was just a father who never left his child's side. She admired that quietly. When Emma finally sat at the nurse's desk, she checked her phone. A message from her landlord blinked on the screen, reminding her the rent was overdue. Her chest tightened. She exhaled slowly, staring at the dim ceiling lights. Her life was simple, but not easy. Long shifts, unpaid bills, and dreams she had long set aside. She had once wanted to study further, maybe become a doctor, but that dream faded when her mother fell ill years ago, and Emma had to start working early. Now, she spent most nights caring for others while forgetting how to care for herself. Still, she never complained. She found peace in small things, the quiet smile of a child getting better, a thank you from a worried parent, the sunrise after a long night. As the first light of dawn began to touch the window, Emma took a deep breath. Another night done, another life helped. What she didn't know was that her kindness had not gone unnoticed. Behind the tinted glass of room 207, Daniel Hayes had returned quietly. He stood there, watching the nurse who had just tucked in his daughter. For the first time in months, he smiled. Something about her calm presence stirred something in him, quiet warmth he thought he had lost long ago. And that was how their story began. Morning sunlight streamed through the blinds, painting the hospital room in soft gold. Lily Hayes stirred in her bed, her small fingers tightening around her father's hand. Daniel Hayes leaned closer, his usual boardroom confidence replaced by something gentler. "Morning, sweetheart," he said softly. Lily smiled faintly. "Daddy, did Nurse Emma come yet?" Daniel's lips curved. "Not yet, but I'm sure she's on her way." He looked toward the door, and almost as if called, Emma appeared. She walked in quietly, her hair pulled into a neat bun, her expression composed but warm. "Good morning, Lily," Emma said, her voice soft, steady. "How did you sleep?" "Better," the little girl said, her eyes bright. "Daddy stayed all night again." Emma glanced at Daniel. He looked away, slightly embarrassed. "I didn't want to leave her," he murmured. Emma smiled, understanding. "She's lucky to have you." Daniel looked at her then, really looked. Her uniform was clean but faded. The shoes looked worn. There were faint shadows under her eyes, but her smile was calm and true. He had met hundreds of people in polished offices, all with perfect manners and practiced charm. Yet, in this tired nurse, he saw something rare, genuine kindness. When Emma checked Lily's vitals, Daniel watched her with quiet curiosity. She worked carefully, explaining every little thing to Lily, making her laugh between checks. It amazed him how effortlessly she brought light into the room. After she finished, Emma wrote on the chart, "The doctor will visit later, but everything looks stable," she said. "You can relax a little." Daniel nodded, his tone sincere. "Thank you for everything you've done for her." Emma shook her head. "You don't have to thank me. She's a brave little girl." She turned to leave, but Lily called out, "Emma, are you coming to the hospital party tonight?" Emma paused. "Party?" Lily nodded eagerly. "They're doing one for the kids who got better this week. Balloons, music, and everyone's dressing nice." Emma smiled, but hesitated. "I don't think I'll have time. I'm covering another shift." Lily's face fell. "I wanted you there." Daniel watched quietly, reading the truth in Emma's pause. It wasn't time she lacked, it was means. When Emma left, Daniel sat back and thought. For years, his life had been contracts, deadlines, and deals. After his wife's passing, his world had turned grey, predictable. cold. But that nurse, she carried something different. Later that evening, as he prepared for another long night by his daughter's bed, he made a quiet decision. He wanted to know more about the woman who gave his little girl hope. And maybe, without realizing it, she was about to give him something. Something he hadn't felt in a long time. The sound of laughter filled the small recreation hall. Bright balloons floated near the ceiling, and the walls were lined with colorful drawings made by the children. Music played softly from a speaker in the corner. For once, the hospital felt alive, full of light. Lily sat in her wheelchair near the front, clapping along as another little boy blew out candles on a cake. Her father stood behind her, hands in his pockets, smiling faintly. "She's enjoying this," Daniel said quietly to the nurse beside him. "Yes, sir," the nurse replied. "The staff worked hard to set this up." Daniel's eyes scanned the room, stopping when he saw her. Emma Clark stood near the doorway, hesitant at first, as if unsure she belonged there. She wore a simple pale blue dress, the fabric soft and plain, yet on her it looked graceful. Her hair fell gently over her shoulders. For the first time, Daniel saw her not as a nurse, but as a woman quiet, kind, and strikingly genuine. When Lily noticed her, she waved wildly. "Emma, you came." Emma smiled and walked over, her cheeks pink. "I couldn't say no to you." Lily's face lit up. "You look so pretty." Daniel smiled, his voice low. "She's right." Emma looked at him, startled. "Oh, thank you, Mr. Hayes." "Please," he said, "just Daniel." For a moment, they stood in a comfortable silence, watching Lily talk to her friends. The air between them felt new, unfamiliar, yet calm. When the music changed, Daniel leaned slightly closer. "Did you get time off your shift?" "Not really," Emma said softly. "I traded hours with a friend. Didn't want to disappoint Lily." "That was kind of you." Emma shrugged. "She's special. They all are." Daniel nodded. "So are you." Her eyes flicked up to his, uncertain how to respond. She quickly turned back toward Lily, smiling again. Later that evening, as the children danced and laughed, Daniel caught glimpses of Emma helping, serving cupcakes, comforting a shy child, fixing a balloon string. Every small act she did carried warmth. When the event ended, most people drifted away, but Daniel stayed behind to help Emma clean up. They worked quietly, folding tablecloths, picking up ribbons, stacking chairs. "Do you always stay this late?" Daniel asked. Emma smiled. "Usually, there's always something to do." "You don't rest much, do you?" "Not really. I can rest later." Daniel chuckled softly. "You remind me of someone I used to know." "Who?" "My wife," he said quietly. "She was a nurse, too." Emma froze, unsure what to say. Daniel's tone wasn't heavy. It was calm, accepting, but filled with memory. "She had the same way of caring," he continued, "the same patience, the same light." Emma looked down. "You must miss her." He nodded. "Every day." Then he smiled faintly. "But tonight feels lighter." Emma didn't answer, but her heart did. That night, for the first time in years, both of them felt something stirring, gentle, fragile, and real. 2 days later, the hospital buzzed with quiet news. Mr. Hayes was hosting a charity dinner to support the children's ward. Everyone talked about it, especially the nurses. Invitations had been sent to donors and a few staff members. Emma never imagined she'd be among them. But that afternoon, while checking Lily's chart, Daniel spoke gently. "There's something I'd like to ask." She looked up. "Yes." He smiled. "You've been wonderful to my daughter. I'd like you to come to the dinner." "As my guest." Emma froze. "Your guest?" Daniel nodded. "Yes, not as staff, as a friend." Her breath caught. She didn't know what to say. I don't think I can. I don't have anything to wear, and I don't really belong in that kind of place." Daniel's tone stayed calm. "You belong wherever you're appreciated, and you've earned that." Still, she smiled weakly and shook her head. "Thank you, but I'll pass." That evening, after her shift, she walked home through the drizzle. The streets were quiet. Her small apartment waited at the end of the block, dim, tidy, and worn. She couldn't stop thinking about his words, the way he said friend, the way he looked at her, not with pity, but with respect. The next day, she passed a thrift shop on her way to the bus stop. In the window, a white dress caught her eye. It wasn't fancy, just simple and soft, with a lace neckline. Something about it felt right. Inside, she ran her fingers over the fabric. It fit her shape in the mirror, modest and gentle. For a moment, she could almost imagine herself standing in a bright hall, not as a nurse, but as a woman seen and valued. Then she looked at the tag. The price was small by most standards, but for her, it meant skipping meals for 2 days. She stood there quietly, the weight of reality sinking in. Emma folded the dress back onto the hanger and smiled faintly to the shopkeeper. "It's lovely," she said. "Maybe another time." When she stepped outside, the rain began again. She pulled her thin jacket closer and walked faster, her heart heavy. She didn't know that, later that night, Daniel would notice her absence on the guest list, nor did she know what he was about to do next, because sometimes kindness returns in ways we never expect, and for Emma, that moment was coming soon. Rain tapped gently on the window as Emma returned home after another long shift. Her shoes were soaked, her uniform damp from the walk. She climbed the stairs slowly, exhausted and half dreaming of sleep. But when she reached her door, she stopped. A small brown box sat on the floor. It was neatly wrapped, tied with a silver ribbon. Her name was written across the top in clean handwriting. She looked around. The hallway was empty. No footsteps, no voices, just silence and rain. Carefully, she carried the box inside and set it on the small table near the lamp. Her fingers trembled slightly as she untied the ribbon and opened the lid. Inside lay a white dress, not the same one from the thrift shop, but almost identical, simple, soft, and beautiful. The lace neckline caught the light, and beneath it rested a small envelope. Emma opened the card slowly. The handwriting was neat, deliberate. "For the woman who made my daughter smile. I hope this helps you find one reason to smile. 2. Daniel Hayes." Her heart stopped. For a long moment, she could only stare at the note, unable to breathe. Then the tears came, quiet and steady. She touched the fabric, her fingers tracing the pattern. It was perfect, thoughtful, kind. She sank onto the couch, holding the dress against her chest. It had been years since anyone had done something like this for hers, something simple, personal, and without condition. The next morning, she packed it back in the box, intending to return it. But as the day went on, she found herself hesitating. Daniel was polite, but distant by habit. Still, there was sincerity in everything he did for his daughter. Maybe this wasn't charity. Maybe it was gratitude. That night, as she stood before the mirror, she finally allowed herself to try it on. The dress fit perfectly. For once, she didn't see the tired nurse who worked endless shifts. She saw a woman she had forgotten, a woman who could still hope, still smile, still feel beautiful. When Lily saw her the next morning at the hospital, she gasped, "Emma, you look like a princess." Daniel, standing behind his daughter, said nothing at first. He just smiled, his eyes soft. "It suits you," he said quietly. Emma looked down, her cheeks warm. "You shouldn't have." "Maybe I shouldn't," Daniel said, "but I wanted to." In that moment, something unspoken passed between them. Gratitude, respect, a spark of something neither of them dared to name. And for the first time in a long time, Emma didn't push the feeling away. The evening air carried the hum of laughter and music. The charity dinner was held in one of the city's oldest hotels, its ballroom lit by chandeliers that sparkled like stars. The guests moved gracefully between tables, glasses clinking, soft conversation floating in the air. Emma stood near the entrance, her hands clasped, her heart racing. The white dress Daniel had sent her shimmered faintly under the lights. It wasn't extravagant, but it was enough to make her stand out. She felt everyone's eyes pass over her, doctors, nurses, executives, all dressed in fine clothes. For a moment, she wondered again if she belonged here. Then she saw him. Daniel Hayes stood across the room, tall and composed in a black suit, speaking with a group of donors. When he turned and saw her, his expression changed. A small, genuine smile broke across his face. He excused himself and walked toward her. "You came," he said softly. "I almost didn't," she replied, "but someone made it hard to say no." He smiled. "Then I'm glad that someone was persuasive." For a moment, they stood together in silence, watching the crowd. The band began to play a slow tune. Couples drifted onto the dance floor. Daniel turned to her. "Would you dance with me?" Emma froze. I don't dance." "Neither do I," he said, smiling. "We'll manage." He offered his hand. After a brief pause, she took it. They moved slowly, awkward at first, then smoother as the music carried them. Daniel's hand was warm against her back, his touch careful. Emma's heartbeat matched the rhythm of the melody. Around them, the world softened. The noise faded. For a few minutes, there was only the sound of the music and the quiet comfort of being seen. Daniel looked down at her. "You know, when Lily first told me about her favorite nurse, I didn't expect this." Emma smiled faintly. What did you expect? Someone kind, he said, but not someone who'd change how I see everything. She looked up, their eyes meeting. I didn't do much, she whispered. You did more than you know, he said. You reminded me what hope feels like. When the song ended, they stood still for a moment, unwilling to let go of the calm between them. Daniel finally said, "Thank you for coming." Emma smiled softly. "Thank you for asking." As they stepped off the dance floor, neither spoke of what the moment meant, but both felt it a quiet start of something real, born not from grand gestures, but from gentle hearts finding each other. The next morning, the world felt softer. The city outside Emma's window hummed with its usual noise, but inside her apartment, everything was still. She sat at her kitchen table, the white dress folded neatly beside her, a reminder of a night that felt almost unreal. She sipped her tea slowly, trying to piece it all together, the lights, the music, the dance. Daniel's voice, calm and sincere, echoing in her mind. "You reminded me what hope feels like." She smiled faintly, then shook her head. "You're being silly," she whispered to herself. "He's your patient's father, that's all." But deep down, she knew it wasn't that simple anymore. At the hospital, whispers followed her down the hallway. Some smiled knowingly, others looked curious. Emma ignored them all and focused on her work. She had always been quiet, steady, never one for attention. Yet today, something inside her glowed quietly, a spark of confidence she hadn't felt in years. When she entered Lily's room, the little girl greeted her with a grin. "Daddy told me you danced." Emma laughed softly. "He told you that, did he?" Lily nodded eagerly. "He said you looked happy." Emma paused. "I was," she admitted. Daniel entered just then, carrying a paper cup of coffee. He looked more relaxed than usual, his tie loose, his smile easy. "Morning," he said. "Good morning," she replied, her tone polite but warm. Lily looked between them with a mischievous smile. "You both look funny today." Daniel raised a brow. "Funny? Like you have a secret," Lily said proudly. Emma laughed, trying to hide her blush. "Maybe we're just tired from all the dancing." Daniel met her eyes for a moment, and they both smiled, an unspoken understanding passing quietly between them. After checking Lily's vitals, Emma turned to leave, but Daniel stopped her. "Emma," he said softly, "would you have coffee with me sometime?" She hesitated. "Coffee, just coffee," he said, smiling gently. "No formalities, no ballrooms." She looked uncertain. "I don't know if that's appropriate." "It doesn't have to be anything," Daniel said. "Just two people talking." Her heart pounded, but she nodded slightly. "Maybe after my next shift." "Good," he said. "It's a promise then." As she walked away, her steps felt lighter. She didn't know where this path would lead. All she knew was that for the first time in a long while, her world didn't feel so small. And for Daniel, watching her disappear around the corner, the walls he had built since his wife's passing began to quietly crumble. The cafe was quiet that morning. The smell of fresh coffee mixed with the soft hum of music in the background. Outside, the city moved fast, but inside, time seemed to slow. Emma sat near the window, her hands wrapped around a warm cup. She looked up as the door opened, and Daniel walked in, dressed casually for once, no tie, no suit jacket, just a man at ease. He smiled when he saw her. "I wasn't sure you'd come." "I wasn't sure either," she said softly. He sat across from her. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence wasn't awkward. It was peaceful, like both needed a break from the noise of their worlds. Finally, Daniel said, "I don't know how long it's been since I sat like this, without a schedule, without a reason." Emma smiled faintly. "You should do it more often." "I'm learning," he said. "You've been teaching me that." She tilted her head. "Me?" He nodded. "You work harder than anyone I know, yet you still find ways to care. Most people lose that." Emma looked down. "I've lost things too." "Your mother?" he asked gently. She nodded. "She passed 5 years ago. I started working double shifts after that. It was easier to keep moving than to stop and think." Daniel's expression softened. "I understand that more than you know." She looked up, meeting his eyes. "Lily told me about your wife. I'm sorry." He exhaled slowly. "It was hard. She was everything. When she died, I buried myself in work. It felt safer than feeling." They both sat quietly for a while, letting the truth settle. Then Emma said, "But Lily's happy. You've done well with her." Daniel smiled faintly. "She's stronger than I am. She reminds me that life still has good things." Emma looked out the window. Sometimes I think that's what we're all doing, trying to find small reasons to keep believing. Daniel's gaze lingered on her. You're one of those reasons. She turned to him, startled. Daniel, he shook his head. You don't have to say anything. I just wanted you to know. The coffee between them had gone cold, but neither cared. The air felt heavier, warmer. Emma finally said quietly, I don't know where this is going. Neither do I, he replied. But for the first time, I want to find out. She smiled, small but sincere. Then maybe that's enough for now. He nodded. It is outside. The sky brightened. Inside the cafe, two lonely souls had begun to heal, not through grand gestures, but through quiet honesty. And as they sat together, something new and fragile began to take root between them. The storm came suddenly that night. The hospital windows rattled as rain hammered the glass. Emma was on her last shift of the week, exhausted but steady as always. She moved from room to room, checking vitals, comforting patients, keeping calm while thunder rolled above. But inside, her heart was restless. The past few days with Daniel had changed something deep within her. Their talks, their quiet moments, his gentle honesty, all of it had become something she didn't know how to handle. She cared more than she should, and that scared her. When her shift ended, she found Daniel waiting by the entrance, his car parked under the hospital lights. The rain poured so hard it blurred everything, but she could still see him clearly standing by the car, umbrella in hand, waiting for her. She hesitated before stepping outside. He walked up, holding the umbrella over her. You didn't think I'd let you walk home in this weather, did you? She smiled faintly. I've walked through worse. He looked at her, his tone soft but firm. You don't have to anymore. They stood there, close enough to hear the rain hit the umbrella, close enough to feel the air change. Daniel, she began, her voice trembling, this whatever we're doing it isn't simple. You're who you are, and I'm just… Emma, he interrupted gently. You're not just anything. She looked away. People will talk. They already are. Let them, he said quietly. They don't know what we've been through. What this means. The wind picked up, blowing rain across their faces. Emma blinked back tears. You've given me too much already. I don't want to be something you fix. I don't want to be a reminder of what you lost. Daniel's jaw tightened. You're not a reminder. You're the reason I finally stopped looking back. For a long moment, neither spoke. Only the storm filled the space between them. Finally, Emma stepped back, her voice quiet but firm. I need time to think, to be sure. Daniel nodded slowly, pain flickering in his eyes but no anger. Then I'll wait. She smiled faintly. You don't have to. I know, he said, but I want to. She turned and walked toward the bus stop, rain soaking her clothes. Daniel watched until she disappeared into the storm. That night, both of them lay awake in their separate worlds, thinking of the same thing, the dance, the laughter, the quiet connection neither could ignore. The storm outside would pass, but the one within their hearts had only just begun. Spring came early that year. The air was warm, the city softer. The storms had passed, and so had the silence. Emma walked along the park path, her white dress brushing against the grass. She clutched a small purse, her hands trembling slightly. Ahead, near the lake, Daniel sat on a wooden bench, holding a bouquet of Lily's favorite flowers. When he saw her, he stood. You came. She smiled gently. I said I'd think about it. He chuckled. And I thought, she said, and I decided yes. He handed her the flowers. Lily picked them. Emma looked over and saw the little girl running with a kite, laughing as it soared high. The sight made her heart swell. Daniel watched her quietly. She misses you. We both do. Emma smiled. I've missed her too. They sat together, watching Lily play. The sky turned golden, the air soft and still. For a while, neither spoke. There was no need to. Finally, Daniel broke the silence. You know, I never thought I'd have a first date again. Emma looked at him, surprised. First, he nodded. Since my wife passed, I didn't think I could feel this way again. Not until you. She looked down, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't think anyone would ever look at me that way. He reached for her hand, gentle and sure. Then let's start there. No titles, no expectations, just us. She met his eyes and nodded slowly. I'd like that. They sat quietly as the sun began to sink, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Lily's laughter echoed through the park, the sound pure and light. Daniel turned to her. Emma, can I tell you something? She smiled. Of course. When I first saw you with Lily, I thought you were just another kind nurse. Then I realized you were the one person who saw her not as a patient, but as a child. You gave her joy when I couldn't. Emma's eyes glistened. She reminded me of who I wanted to be, who I lost for a while. Daniel smiled softly. Then maybe we both helped each other find something. A light breeze moved through the trees. Emma looked at him, her heart calm for the first time in years. Daniel, she said quietly, is this really a date? He grinned. If you say yes. She laughed. Then yes, it's our first date. Lily's kite soared high above them, its tail fluttering against the fading light. Two hearts, once broken, now beat in quiet harmony. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, the nurse who couldn't afford a dress and the millionaire who had lost his way began their new chapter, not in luxury or grandness, but in something far more precious: peace.